And by 2025, everything Grove makes and sells will be 100% plastic-free. Choose your free starter set today at grove.com.
Johnny Depp has told his story to the jury and to the world. He says he never abused his ex-wife, Amber Heard. In fact, he claims that she was the one who was physically abusing him.
She picked up a can of mineral spirits about yay big and heaved it at me, and it struck me on the bridge of the nose.
Johnny produced witnesses who say they saw him being abused. Johnny showed the jury pictures of his injuries. He also called witnesses to the stand who say they never saw injuries on Amber's face. So now it's Amber's turn to tell her side of the story.
He or she gestured, I can't remember which one, to my face and said, we can tell you've been hurt or you don't look good or something to that effect.
We are live from Fairfax County, Virginia, as Amber starts to tell her side of the story. What was really happening in this volatile relationship? Tonight, we have all the latest in Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard. I'm Vinnie Politan. Thank you so much for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. Great to have you aboard. What a wild ride it has been over the last 3.5 weeks. And finally today, Johnny Depp and his team said, okay, we rest our case. We have proven our case. We've put enough evidence in front of this jury to prove that Amber Heard is a liar and that she defamed Johnny Depp. That moment happened. And when that moment happened, I took a second and said, wow, think about what we have just experienced in the last 3.5 weeks. Much different than most trials, or maybe all trials I've ever covered here on Court TV. And I'm thinking back to the two moments I think that will live on past this trial for many people are Grumpy and the Mega Pint. I mean, think about this. I mean, on the one hand, you're talking about Johnny Depp coming up with this word grumpy to describe what is alleged that Amber Heard did or left in his bed. That's an image that will not leave pop culture forever and likely will not leave the jury as well. I mean, a lot of people talking about this, but it's so beyond what you would expect to hear when you're talking about the lives of a couple of mega millionaires that were married. Then another image, one that doesn't make Johnny look so good, was the Mega Pint, describing that glass of wine or whatever it was of wine that he was pouring. We've seen that video, and in that video, Johnny Depp upset, obviously upset, clearly upset in what was taking place. And those two images stuck here, right? A lot of buzz about him. The other thing that I'm going to remember about Johnny Depp was when he's on cross-examination. And this is where you really saw his performance, his personality come out as he had this battle with the defense attorney and kept, saying, yes, Mr. Rottenborn. And sort of loved saying that last name over and over again. It became a thing in the way he would answer the questions. And this back and forth, again, very memorable, very different than most people that you see on the witness stand. And I don't know what the jury does with all of it. I really don't know how they take it. Obviously, Johnny Depp's fans loved every minute of it. But will the jury love it is another question. But it's, again, another part of this case that is so different. The witness sort of taking the situation, right? He's kind of on the hot seat during cross-examination, but trying to get a leg up in the way this whole thing kind of goes and having this back and forth with his ex-wife's attorney. Then you get to the heart of what this case is really about. And you're talking about planes, trains, and vodka bottles, right? This is the part of Johnny Depp's case that the jury really has to decide what really happened here. Now, we've heard the stories about Johnny Depp on the plane. This is before they even got married, and it really was focused on cross-examination, that Johnny Depp is drunk out of control. His story is, yeah, I may have had a few, but I was in the bathroom, and we heard the recordings that were made, the noises, bizarre behavior, all before they even get married. And then you take a look at what happened on the Orient Express on the train, and this picture of Johnny Depp battered and bruised. Like, how did that happen? Was it at the hands of Amber Heard? Is Johnny Depp the victim in all of this? And then you get to probably the one incident that there was the most testimony about, which was the vodka bottle, and what exactly happened to Johnny Depp's finger. You know, was it a self-inflicted injury, or was it something that Amber Heard did? You know, the jury's got to figure all this out. But Johnny Depp painted some very vivid images through his testimony and the testimony of some of his witnesses who supported his version of what was taking place in this relationship, which is he is the victim. So as we sit here tonight, the big question is, okay, what's next? What's next in this trial? We've gone through 3.5 weeks. Well, it's Amber Heard's turn to present her case. And remember, we're halfway through this, right? And there's a completely different version of everything that happened between these two. And it's time for that to happen. And for Amber Heard to win this, it's got to be about what she believes is the truth. Because the truth is a defense to defamation. If what she said is true, she wins the case. Ultimately, the jury has to make that call. So today, day one for Amber Heard and her team. And originally, Amber Heard was supposed to be the first witness. Little switch up. They brought in a psychologist, Dr. Dawn Hughes, who was a powerful witness who not only talked about the mental state and what is going on with Amber Heard, but also got to talk about the alleged behavior of Johnny Depp. Let's take a listen.
The main opinion is that Ms. Heard's report of intimate partner violence and the records that I reviewed is consistent with what we know in the field about intimate partner violence, characterized by physical violence, psychological aggression, sexual violence, coercive control, and surveillance behaviors.
And what was the other main opinion that you had?
The second main opinion was that Ms. Heard demonstrated very clear psychological and traumatic effects, or the exacerbation of trauma from those statements that Mr. Depp made through his attorney. There were 3 statements that we evaluated to see how they affected her emotionally and psychologically, and it was my determination that they did.
And did you arrive at any diagnostic conclusions?
Yes, I did.
And what were those?
I diagnosed Ms. Heard with post-traumatic stress disorder. He pushed her, he shoved her, he slapped her with the front of his hand and the back of his hand. He choked her, he slammed her into the wall, he pushed her and she fell down. He kicked her in the back. Again, without looking at my notes, that's what I can recall.
Okay. And what type of injuries did Amber Heard report to you?
She reported mostly bruising, pain, some cuts. She reported vaginal pain from some of the sexual assaults. She reported that she did have some scratches and cuts on her from broken glass. She reported that she believed she may have lost consciousness 2 times, once in the Australia incident and once in the December 15th, 2015 incident.
This is serious abuse that is being alleged by Amber Heard at this point, right? Losing consciousness, sexual assaults, serious stuff. So they've set the table now through this witness and trying to explain Amber's behavior, whatever's going on with her mental state. Let's bring in Court TV legal correspondent Chanley Painter, who is live outside the courthouse in Fairfax, Virginia tonight. Chanley, great to see you. Interested in your takeaways from the very important testimony of Dr. Hughes.
Well, just watching what you played, I'm noticing Amber Heard's reaction. Her lips sometimes quivered in the courtroom. She seemed emotional as these really vivid and graphic details were described by her treating psychologist to the jury. That's what really stood out to me, but also the conclusions that the psychologist reached after spending around 29 hours with Amber Heard, studying her previous therapist reports, medical records, and of course all the court documents in this case, meeting with her in 2019, Vinnie, and in 2021 a couple of times, and telling this jury that she suffers from PTSD due to the abuse from her former husband, Johnny Depp. She also counteracted Dr. Shannon Curry, Johnny Depp's expert, who testified eloquently last week for Johnny Depp's case, who was there in the gallery today, sitting there taking in Dr. Hughes' testimony and evidence. Let's take a listen to part of the testimony today where she does address some of Dr. Curry's findings and discounts them.
Dr. Curry, in answering that question, were you consulting anything?
Dr. Hughes.
Dr. I'm so sorry. Dr. Hughes, were you consulting anything? Dr. Curry's here, I guess, as well.
Oh, that was actually Elaine calling Dr. Hughes, Vinnie, Dr. Curry, who was sitting there in the gallery. And that happened not just once, but twice during this contentious exchange after a sidebar. You could see Johnny Depp's reaction, kind of laughing with his attorney, Ben Chu. And, of course, Dr. Hughes still on the stand, but she talks about Amber Heard not having any sort of personality disorder like Shannon Curry diagnosed her with borderline personality disorder, histrionic personality disorder, and she also cited other doctors' reports who agreed with her findings and that there was a lot of corroborating evidence, according to Dr. Hughes, to Amber Heard's allegations, including text messages and photos and eyewitnesses that she considered in these findings. So a lot before this jury. During this time, I mentioned Amber Heard's reaction. I mentioned Johnny Depp reacted to that, but it was really interesting to see Johnny Depp's demeanor change, Vinnie, when Dr. Hughes was making those opinions about his ex-wife. He turns around. Of course, you could see him with Ben Chu several times. He turns around and looks right there at Elaine as she's trying to ask a question. At one point, he even turns around to the attorney for his side, who will cross Dr. Hughes for an extended amount of time, like he's counseling his attorney on how to object and what to do next at these conclusions he very much disagreed with.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think what we're going to see, it starts with these experts seeing everything completely differently, but will certainly continue when Amber Heard gives us a completely different version of what was happening in this relationship that Johnny Depp did. As I mentioned at the top here, Johnny Depp completed his case in chief today, and at the end of his case, like we see in all the trials here on Court TV, the defense tried to get the case tossed.
They did. It's a standard motion for summary judgment, and they argued back and forth before the judge made a decision, Vinnie. Essentially, the defense said there wasn't enough evidence put on proof in the plaintiff's case to meet the burden here to prove that Amber Heard was an abuser or that she defamed and injured Johnny Depp in this case. And, of course, Depp's team fired back at Heard's team, saying that there was significant amount of proof and the witnesses that they called to do so. Ultimately, the judge denied it, saying that all really Johnny Depp had to do was put forth a scintilla of evidence to make it past this low bar at this stage. But it seemed like a victory in the courtroom because Johnny Depp celebrated by really hugging, embracing his lead attorney, Ben Chu. They really do seem to have a great relationship, attorney-client, a relationship there, and celebrate that victory of that dismissal. And a spokesperson for Johnny Depp did release a statement that said in part that numerous witnesses have testified that Ms. Heard engaged in psychological, verbal, and physical abuse towards Mr. Depp, and we are pleased at Chief Judge Azcarati's ruling to continue with the trial after Mr. Rottenborn failed to convince the court that there was reason to dismiss the case. We stand confident in the future of the case and for the truth to be continued to be shared. So a little bit more momentum before, of course, Amber Heard's case started today and her expert on the stand.
Yeah, and those aren't automatic. I mean, in criminal cases, it's rare. I think it's a little more common in civil cases for something to be tossed at this point. It wasn't. It will continue. Channeling Painter, we'll check back in with you in just a little bit. I want to bring in our special guest joining us tonight in Los Angeles, California. Hollywood business manager Belva Anaquizny is with us. Belva, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We love to get that Hollywood perspective because ultimately that's what this case is about. Let's start talking about Amber Heard and her career and what's happening right now. Because yesterday the big news was she's got a brand new PR team, which tells me she doesn't believe that what is being, the way this trial is playing in the public is making her look good. From your perspective, from a business perspective, what is this trial up until this point doing, do you think, to Amber Heard and her career?
I really don't think there's going to be much changes after we see the her testimony on the other side. But I do believe that we are in a new Hollywood right now, and things aren't the way they used to be. The good old boys club doesn't really exist anymore, and so producers are looking for people that are likable and coachable and are easy to work with. So unless you're uber talented, it's actually hard to cross the finish line. And so I think that the way that she's being portrayed is going to make it really hard for her to continue to work in Hollywood. Wow.
Now, and you say that despite what could potentially happen once she takes the witness stand. Do you think there, and you know, she's going to get up there, testify, all eyes are on her. I mean, more people are going to be watching this than perhaps Aquaman 2, not sure. But what are your thoughts about the impact her testimony could have over the course of, 3 or 4 days?
I mean, I don't know, but the reality of it is even her own witnesses aren't really showing her in a favorable light. So it's going to really depend on how much she can really spin this to make it seem like she really is a victim. And so, but again, it goes back to being likable and coachable. And unless you're an uber star, you have a lot of barriers to overcome. So I honestly don't see a long runway for her.
Do you see, because of the spotlight that's been put on this case and people like me who didn't know who Amber Heard was before this, and she was an accomplished actress. I just don't watch a ton of movies. I don't watch superhero movies. Sorry, I just don't. But do you think the curiosity of now that she is much more well known than she was before could potentially help her now and like say, hey, when you say there's an Amber Heard movie coming out, people are like, oh, maybe I want to see that.
I'm not saying that she won't work again in Hollywood, but I think her getting blockbuster films is kind of out of the window. So there definitely is a world in which she gets, B-level films where she's getting indie films. That does exist. She might go to reality TV. There are definitely ways to make money in this industry. I just don't see her really doing blockbuster films anymore.
All right, one final question, and everyone at home right now wants to know the answer to this. How about Johnny Depp? How about Johnny Depp? Because we know where he was coming into all of this. Regardless of the verdict, is there a potential that all of a sudden there's a lot of people saying, hey, when's that next Johnny Depp movie coming out?
I do, because he's uber talented. His career has lasted decades. He was a child actor. So he has the catalog of history showing his talent. I think he does have some more runway. It just is going to depend on how much she paints him as a true abuser. And I think that's really going to be the telling point for him.
All right. Big day coming up tomorrow. Belva Anaquizny, appreciate your time joining us from Hollywood tonight. We'll speak again. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Be well.
When we come back, folks, we can take you back inside the courtroom, see more of that testimony from Dr. Hughes, explosive stuff, and we'll bring in our own experts to get their take on, number one, the diagnosis and what it all means and how it's playing in front of that jury.
And then below that, you write, "Don't call me again and do not expect anything from me." Do you see that?
I do see that.
Did I read that right?
You really did.
Let's go to the next page, please. Eat salad with your equine AD bovine yerps. And thanks for the support. Have a great shoot. You sicken me. Leave me f***ing be, Officer Squarehead. Your display of guilt and matronliness as a lesbian camp counselor was plenty. Your future is on display. Best of luck.
Best if luck.
Johnny Depp's text messages to Amber Heard, and you know, a big part of the cross-examination was putting all this stuff in front of the jury. But what does it tell us about what is going on in this relationship in terms of who is abusing who? We know there's bad stuff happening here. I think that's clear to all of us at this point, okay? I think everyone agrees that there is a volatile relationship and there is bad stuff happening. The question is, who's abusing who? Dr. Dawn Hughes was the first witness called by Amber Heard and her team today. Powerful witness, explosive allegations. Let's take a listen.
The abuse by Mr. Depp, he called her a number of names, frequently whore, slut, lesbian camp counselor, you know, easy, ambition. Ambition was a weaponized term in that relationship. So he called her a lot of names and humiliated her. And of course, I think we talked about the intimidation tactics that, you know, Mr. Depp was often banging and throwing and hitting things in the household, which sort of got the tension to rise up very significantly, very quickly.
And the jury is seeing some of that already. Again, on the cross-examination of Johnny Depp, the famous, the infamous Mega Pint video, which demonstrates some of this behavior being described by Dr. Dawn Hughes. Let's take another look at it.
What happened? What happened? Nothing happened this morning, you know that?
Were you in here?
No.
So then nothing happened to you this morning.
Yeah, you're right. I just woke up and you were so sweet and nice. We were not even fighting this morning. All I did was say sorry.
Did something happen to you this morning? I don't think so.
No, that's the thing.
You want to see crazy? I'll give you crazy. That's crazy. Oh, you're crazy. Oh, you're crazy.
Have you drunk this whole thing this morning?
Oh, you got this going? You got this going?
I just started it.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Really? Sneak that on me?
No, I didn't. You were smashing.
Bye.
Let's bring in tonight's guests. Joining me tonight in River Edge, New Jersey, family law attorney Janelle Weinstein, and in New York City, psychotherapist, host of Talking Live on Facebook Watch and the Bite Side podcast, Dr. Robbie Ludwig. Great to have you both here together, which is awesome. Janelle, let me begin with you, family law attorney. Is this Is this where we are now in these battles inside, in these cases of bitter breakups, that we talk about nasty text messages, there's secret recordings, there's slam? Is this what we're seeing in cases? Is it just what we're seeing here, or is this much more common than we might think?
Unfortunately, it is much more common than we would think. We always have a saying as family law attorneys, there's her version, his version, and somewhere in the middle is probably the truth. And particularly in a relationship that's so volatile like this, there are two versions of the abuse. And which one is the abuser, or are they both? And we know in this case it's a defamation case. So it's up to Johnny Depp to be able to show that these allegations she's making are not true, that there's no truth to them, and therefore she's defamed him. And I don't know that he's going to get there, but this is certainly playing out like a divorce case.
It absolutely is. Dr. Robbie Ludwig, the text messages, what you know, these nasty text messages, name calling, what does that tell you about what's going on in the relationship? And is that an indicator that Johnny Depp is the abuser in this relationship?
Well, I agree with Janelle. It seems like they were both able to attack one another. And what we see with Johnny Depp is he's a bit more clever and insidious with some of his psychological demeaning tendencies. And that's what we see in the text messages, that he is good at criticizing, he's good at devaluing, he's good at basically saying very nasty name calling. And one could see where that would have an impact on Amber, and where she might describe that as being psychologically abused. But we're really not seeing anything else. We're not seeing the physical abuse, we're not seeing the sexual abuse, which doesn't mean it didn't happen, because very often in marriages, we don't know exactly what's going on in a couple, or between the two of them.
You mentioned sexual assault. Those allegations again today, front and center through Dr. Dawn Hughes. Let's take a listen.
There are indications, as I mentioned before, of the sexual assault and the sexual abuse, and how he would, you know, when he was angry and when he was drunk, it was mostly drug and alcohol fueled rage, when he would, you know, throw her on the bed and try to have sex with her. And then, you know, if he was not able to perform, he would get more angry at her and blame her. So we have this dynamic of blaming her for his inability to take responsibility for his behavior. Those themes were...
All right, sex assault in a divorce case, Janelle. You know, you said this is like a divorce case. It absolutely is. Are those common allegations that, you know, one spouse is accusing the other of sexual assault?
There can be times in divorce matters where you hear them, and that becomes a whole different cause of action in a divorce case. But particularly here, I think the jury is going to hear some very graphic details. We're hearing it from the expert right now, laying the groundwork for what's to come, because we have to hear corroboration of what she's basing her findings on. And who's next but Amber Heard? And it's going to be very interesting to hear how she testifies. It's not going to be the first time she's testifying. So the attorneys are ready for it. They're ready for it on direct. They're ready for it on cross-examination, on how she's going to come across this jury. We know how Johnny Depp testified. We don't know how the jury's perceiving it. And it'll be very interesting to see how Amber does on the stand with this jury. And if she resonates well with them, that's going to go a long way in Johnny Depp losing this case.
Dr. Robbie Ludwig, we're up against the break here, but drug and alcohol-fueled rage and sex assault versus Johnny's version, which is I take drugs and I fall asleep. Which is more likely?
It really comes down to who is more credible, who's more likely to distort what's happening, or could they both be right and it's a matter of perception? And we just don't have enough information to know that quite yet.
All right. Janelle Weinstein, Dr. Robbie Ludwig staying with us. When we come back, another big issue in this case, and a big issue today, which is Johnny Depp. Is he jealous? Is he full of jealous rage? Is that what is driving what Amber Heard says is this assaultive behavior? We'll talk about that next.
8.
Question, the night before you were due to meet up, did you have a heated discussion on the telephone with Miss Heard about what was happening with James Franco, the scene she was doing with James Franco? Answer, I do not recall, but it is highly likely. Did I read that right?
You did.
And you suspected that Amber was having an affair with James Franco, correct? That was the reason for your argument.
Yeah, yes.
Jealousy, is that what is fueling Johnny Depp's alleged rage? Well, that's what Amber Heard's team wants this jury to believe. Dr. Dawn Hughes talked about that today, first witness called by Amber Heard. And don't forget, it's not just James Franco, Billy Bob Thornton as well was another name that we heard when Johnny Depp was on the witness stand. So let's take a listen to Dr. Dawn Hughes.
So possessive jealousy is a very difficult dynamic in intimate partner violence. It's very common in situations of coercive control. It's rooted in possession, that the gentleman feels that he can possess her and that he can have her whenever he wants. It's very possessive dynamic. But the accusations, the problem is when you make the accusations, the woman's forced to refute the accusations. So they're continuing in this dynamic where she's trying to prove, I didn't do what you said, this didn't happen. And then unfortunately, sometimes it escalates because the man is not taking the no for an answer because this is a perseverative, obsessive pattern that's very difficult to penetrate, that often these type of conversations lend themselves to physical and sexual violence. Miss Heard and Mr. Depp were going to fly back to LA and spend the weekend together. They were shooting at different sites. Miss Heard is on the plane waiting for Mr. Depp to come on in the tarmac. He's reportedly sitting in the SUV, smoking and drinking, smoking weed and drinking. She is filming with James Franco at this point, and she gets on the plane and he starts talking about James Franco, making a lot of derogatory comments about her, and I hope you had fun with your escapades, and some more inflammatory language. And then in an argument, when she got up to leave, he kicked her in the back and she went forward on the plane.
I want to bring back in my guest, still with us, Janelle Weinstein, family law attorney and psychotherapist, Dr. Robbie Ludwig. Dr. Robbie, let me ask you about this. This possessive jealousy, coercive control concept. And the way the doctor was talking about it, it's like, well, yeah, she's being accused and she's denying, and then it escalates. What if it's actually true? What if the accusations are true? Does that change the dynamic or the diagnosis or the analysis of this situation at all?
It absolutely does, and that's such a good question, Vinnie, because one suggests that it's paranoia, right? That Johnny Depp is paranoid and he is assuming that his wife is cheating on him. Another way of looking at it is maybe she was in danger of cheating, or maybe that was her inclination. And we certainly see that given some of the people that she's dated during the time that she was with Johnny. So maybe he had a good reason to wonder if she was in danger of fleeing him or leaving the relationship. And we don't know what she said to him to make him potentially jealous. Did she say things like, I wish you could be more like XYZ? Or I wish you were a real man, like, whoever she was working with at the time. We don't know the inner dynamic. So Dr. Hughes is very impressive and a very credible witness, but we don't really know the dynamics behind the fear that Johnny had.
Janelle Weinstein, let me ask you about I'm not going to ask you if it's common that you see couples that are cheating on each other, right? But how often, though, is that connected to the violence in a relationship, right? When things get to the next level, would you say this is the number one trigger that can take a couple from being, a couple to being two that are engaging in back and forth or one-sided violence on the other?
Well, interesting enough, it can have two forms. One, it can be the awakening for that one partner to say, this is really going on. This is what's happening in my relationship. And that's the final straw. I need to get out. The other side is what you're going to, Vinnie, which is that now we found out and it escalates. And this is what domestic violence comes down to, temporary restraining orders. Somebody is so enraged by the fact that they found out someone's cheating and they do terrible things or they do things that are very aggressive. But it really does show in two forms in a divorce where sometimes it's kind of the straw that broke the camel's back, which sounds really strange, but they've been looking and they know there's something wrong with their relationship, and this is the reason now that they're going to get divorced. So it comes in different forms in the divorce setting, and I think what we're seeing here with these two parties is this is a dysfunctional relationship from the beginning. It happened prior to them getting married, and certainly once they were getting divorced, everything was on the table. So it's a unique look in the dynamic of this relationship for different purposes now in this defamation case, but during the divorce, that went fairly quickly. Now what we're seeing is all the dirty laundry coming out because we've got reputations on the line.
Absolutely. Janelle Weinstein, Dr. Robbie Ludwig, thank you both so much. Appreciate having you on tonight. We'll see you again real soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
When we come back, we're going to take you back down to Fairfax County, Virginia. Chanley Painter, Court TV legal correspondent, is there and is going to show you some of the things that you didn't see yet that were happening at the courthouse.
and hope today.
Tell me what you guys are doing here today.
Well, to support Johnny Depp, let him know we're, huge fans, and yeah, we're on his side, and to see him, really.
Tell me how you feel about Johnny Depp.
Huge fan. He's probably one of my favorite actors.
Yeah, since I was a little kid. He actually got me the reason I got into hairdressing. I opened up a salon, and it's everything dedicated to Edward Scissorhands, and I think he's a great actor, and he's a good person.
Amazing, amazing. Just some of the supporters there for Johnny Depp. Let's bring in Court TV legal correspondent Chanley Painter, who's live outside the courthouse tonight in Fairfax, Virginia. Amazing. So tell me the scene outside of the courthouse this morning.
Vinnie, there's never a shortage of characters and fans out here at the Fairfax County Courthouse today. No different. Dozens and dozens of people showing up early. I spoke to one couple, Jerry and Mark from New Jersey, Vinnie. They say hi. They watch you every night. I sat next to them inside the courtroom today. They were here at midnight last night to be in line to get a wristband to get into the courtroom, and they were still number 7. Number 7 at midnight last night, Vinnie. Unbelievable. And of course, they line up to catch Johnny Depp when he arrives in the morning. There's the scene right there. And, I've really enjoyed getting to know all the people who come to this courthouse from near and far. Really great people. And just a community has been built here outside the courthouse. Let's take a listen to some of those who waited out there early this morning and what they had to say as to why they showed up.
I saw Johnny Depp and I threw him my roses and he caught them. And it was pretty cool. I'm glad he caught them because sometimes people don't usually get that chance. I think there's more than enough evidence that she lied, and I hope her career gets ruined because she really did some damage on his, and that's not right.
Again, majority here for Johnny Depp. Yesterday, I was able to find one young man in support of Amber Heard. I hunted for one today, didn't find one today, but again, they're here for Johnny Depp. Vinnie, and of course, we expect them to be out in full force tomorrow as Amber Heard's testimony should begin tomorrow afternoon. Absolutely. The scene is getting closer to the scene outside of Michael Jackson's trial. That level of fandom, the lining up and everything the night before, exactly what happened during the Casey Anthony trial. As I'm going out to dinner every night down there, you would see the line had started already, so amazing to see that. One thing, though, that I don't think we've seen anywhere before are the alpacas. I'm on the alpaca beat. I got it covered for you, Vinnie. They were out again today waiting for Johnny Depp. They want to bring a smile to his face. And I wanted to talk to them about not only providing some emotional support to Johnny Depp as they're here to support, but also to just the crowd, all of these families that are showing up to wave at Johnny Depp. Of course, they have their Pirates hats on, so now they're called Captain Truffle and Captain Teddy, Vinnie. But let's take a listen to what they told me.
No, we're out here again today trying to support, for Johnny, and it's sad that he went the other way today, but understandable since yesterday they pretty much mobbed his Escalade, so I think security reasons they probably pushed him to the side with nobody so he could get out a little faster, a little less chaos, but, we'll still come back out. We're hopeful that eventually one day he'll stop and pet him, but, today's not that day, unfortunately.
Right. Now, I noticed the pirate hat addition to Teddy and Truffle. Love it.
Now it's Captain Truffle and Captain Teddy. So.
In of course, a memory of Captain Jack Sparrow. Andrea, tell us about Peru Loves You sign and why that's important.
So we have a lot of friends and family from Peru. I'm from Peru, and they all asked me to tell Johnny that we love him. So I had to make a sign about it.
Apparently, Teddy thinks it tastes good.
Teddy thinks everything tastes good.
Hey, buddy. Yeah. Say hi to Vinnie Politan. Vinnie, he says hi to you. Big fan, yes. Teddy and Truffle watch it every night, Vinnie.
Absolutely. All right. So what we've been seeing is when Johnny Depp leaves, it becomes quite a scene. And yesterday, I remember you commenting that things got a little, almost seemed dangerous for some of the people involved. There were so many at the end of the day. Any changes today in the way they're leaving the courthouse?
Yeah, Sean, the alpaca handler, referred to this in his soundbite to me. So, yes, yesterday was absolute chaos when Johnny Depp left the courthouse, departing with fans swarming his SUV to the point they were almost hanging off of it. I was concerned for their safety. Well, today, Vinny, his SUV emerges from the courthouse. Here's yesterday, I believe, where we watched the fans swarm. It was difficult for his driver to make the way down the road. I mean, it's an entire block of just fans chasing after his SUV. Well, today he goes in a different direction. They're lined up again along this street, waiting for him, and then this happens. So he goes the other direction. Many disappointed. Amber Heard's vehicle also goes that direction. And I caught up with a woman from Alexandria, Virginia. Her name's Shiloh. She talked to me about how disappointing it actually was. Vinny, let's watch.
Or got up at 2:30 this morning, got here at 3:45. I was number 57. Been waiting in the courtroom all day. Came out 15 minutes early, thought we were going to see Johnny come this way, and he took off going the opposite direction.
And what did that feel like?
Disappointment. I had a note to give him, and unfortunately I could not give it to him.
Very disappointing. And I heard it kind of echo down the road of just, no.
Yes, we all ran over here and then waited. Everyone yelled Johnny, so we're like super excited waiting here, and then he went the other way.
That was the sentiment, Vinny, and people had made bracelets, signs, cards, flowers, gummy bears were left on the street, hoping to give them to him as he drove down the road.
What a scene. What a scene. Fairfax County, Virginia's never seen anything quite like it at the courthouse, but everyone is remaining safe and seemingly under control, which is good to see and hear.
Security does a great job here.
Absolutely. Chanley Painter, thank you so much. Live tonight for us at Fairfax. When we come back, we're going to bring in our think tank and talk about the legal strategy and the beginning of Amber Heard's case. That's next.
98.
In Fairfax County, Virginia, Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard, the bitter, dueling defamation trial that has grabbed the attention of the nation. Johnny Depp says Amber Heard lied when she wrote an op-ed insinuating she was abused by Johnny. Johnny rested his case today after more than 3 weeks of evidence and 4 days of his own testimony.
She threw the large bottle, and it made contact and shattered everywhere.
Now it's time for Amber to tell her side of the story.
I said to them, I decline to give any statement at this time as per the advice of my counsel.
And in Fremont County, Idaho, Doomsday Mom Lori Vallow Daybell is competent to stand trial, and it's official. Prosecutors want to send her to the death chamber. We have the latest.
The conspiracy to commit first-degree murder is punishable by death or imprisonment for life.
Plus, tonight's 13th juror question, what was the most compelling evidence presented by Johnny Depp in his case? Buckle your seatbelts. This hour of closing arguments starts right now. I'm Vinnie Politan. Thanks so much for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. Big day in Fairfax County, Virginia. Johnny Depp rested his case, which means now the ball is in Amber Heard's court. Her opportunity to present her case to this jury. And when you talk about a defamation case, right? Lawyers want to win the case, okay? Lawyers not necessarily concerned about PR, the court of public opinion, social media, etc. They want to win the case. So when you talk about a defamation case, the first defense, the best defense you have to defamation is, it's true. It's true. You're accusing my client of defamation? What my client said was true, ladies and gentlemen. Truth is a defense 1,000% of the time. Doesn't matter how much damage that statement does. In this country, you're allowed to speak the truth out loud as you want. You could put it in the Washington Post, you can put it anywhere. So if you're defending a defamation case, that's always the first place you turn. Well, all right, is it true? So that's one of the defenses, and probably the most important defense that Amber Heard is going to have in this case, is that, yes, she is a victim of Johnny Depp's abuse, period. That's it. So their case began today. Amber Heard did not testify. Originally, we thought she'd be the first witness. And a lot of us were like, well, should she be the first witness? The jury heard the psychological expert for Johnny Depp tell us all about Amber Heard, suffering from a borderline personality disorder, histrionic personality disorder, someone who exaggerates, makes things up, always the center of attention. So if you put her on as the first witness, all of a sudden, the jury's looking at her like, okay, yeah, tell us your story, but is it true? Can we believe you? Can we trust you? So to counteract that, the defense changed things up a little bit, and they began with their own psychologist, their own expert to talk about Amber Heard and her mental state and what exactly she suffers from. But when they did that, not only did she talk about Amber Heard, Dr. Dawn Hughes also spoke about the allegations against Johnny Depp. So it's like a 2-for-1 when you put that expert on first. Let's take a listen.
The main opinion is that Ms. Heard's report of intimate partner violence and the records that I reviewed is consistent with what we know in the field about intimate partner violence, characterized by physical violence, psychological aggression, sexual violence, coercive control, and surveillance behaviors.
And what was the other main opinion that you had?
The second main opinion was that that Ms. Heard demonstrated very clear psychological and traumatic effects or the exacerbation of trauma from those statements that Mr. Depp made through his attorney. There were 3 statements that we evaluated to see how they affected her emotionally and psychologically, and it was my determination that they did.
And did you arrive at any diagnostic conclusions?
Yes, I did.
And what were those?
I diagnosed Ms. Heard with post-traumatic stress disorder. He pushed her, he shoved her, he slapped her with the front of his hand and the back of his hand. He choked her, he slammed her into the wall, he pushed her and she fell down. He kicked her in the back. Again, without looking at my notes, that's what I can recall.
Okay. And what type of injuries did Amber Heard report to you?
She reported mostly bruising, pain, some cuts. She reported vaginal pain from some of the sexual assaults. She reported that she did have some scratches and cuts on her from broken glass. She reported that she believed she may have lost consciousness 2 times, once in the Australia incident and once in the December 15th, 2015 incident.
Now, remember, this is a civil case, so Johnny Depp, as the plaintiff, does not have to prove his case beyond a reasonable doubt. Burden of proof is much lower. It's kind of like that, instead of like that in a criminal case. So big, big difference here tonight, folks. Big difference in this case. But they're talking about sexual assault. They're talking about losing consciousness. They're talking about brutal, brutal attacks by Johnny Depp, which I think puts a burden on them to demonstrate and to prove this. If in fact this is what happened, how do they prove all of this? Let's bring in our think tank. Joining us tonight in Atlanta, Georgia, criminal defense attorney, former federal prosecutor and law professor at Texas Southern University, Michael Sterling is with us. In Seattle, Washington, trial attorney Ann Bremner. And in West Palm Beach, Florida, former police lieutenant and trial attorney Rick King. Welcome, all of you. Michael, I think about these allegations that are made here and where Amber Heard and her team are going to go in their case. They're talking about sexual assaults. This is criminal behavior, knocking her unconscious. Do you think they're biting off more than they can chew? How heavy is this burden to prove to this jury that she got knocked out and sexually assaulted by Johnny Depp?
Well, Vinnie, let's keep in mind, so there are 2 parts to this, right? There's the part where she's defending herself against the defamation case, and then the part where she's trying to demonstrate that Johnny Depp defamed her by saying what she said wasn't true. So we're sort of in this like bizarro world where you don't get to a lot of times in civil cases because there's this action and this counteraction. So, I mean, I would just say, Vinnie, that even if she can't prove that Johnny Depp knocked her unconscious or there were these sexual assaults because there may not be physical or forensic evidence, the idea is whether or not she can demonstrate there was some level of abuse to the point where Johnny Depp cannot win his defamation suit. So if they cancel each other out, I think that's probably a victory for Amber Heard, right? So if somehow she's able to demonstrate what she said was substantially true, even if it's not the whole truth and nothing but the truth, if she can demonstrate what she said was substantially true, even if she can't prove those things, to a degree of certainty, I think what they're trying to do is let's go big, and if we don't hit the moon, we might land among the stars.
Ann Bremner, Johnny Depp's expert, Dr. Curry, spoke about borderline personality disorder, histrionic, and basically said Amber Heard exaggerates. So I think that was the setup to deal with these allegations of being knocked unconscious and being viciously sexually assaulted, dragged across the glass. And we have to remember that in this relationship, police are only called once. And those officers, when they responded, didn't see anything. They saw nothing. They saw none of the injuries that were alleged. So what are your thoughts about the allegations of being knocked unconscious and being sexually assaulted more than once?
You know, I always say, Vinnie, in my cases, don't try and prove more than you need to. And it seems to me that's placed right into Johnny Depp's expert, Dr. Curry's testimony, which is she's histrionic, that she grossly exaggerates what she's alleged to have occurred in terms of abuse. It's just so over the top that it almost helps Johnny Depp's case. If she just come in and said, you know, there was this, that, or that, you know, and they didn't quite see my injuries, but other people did, that's a lot easier in terms of saying that that I'm actually telling the truth, and that's an absolute offense of defamation. But what we heard today was just jarring and shocking, and maybe a result of gross exaggeration. The jury may think that.
Rick King, what are your thoughts? I mean, we're going to hear, and we're already hearing, two completely different versions of what was happening in this relationship. And, you know, last hour I had family law attorney on, Janelle Weinstein, and she talked about how family law attorneys always talk about, yeah, there's his version, her version, and then like the truth is somewhere in the middle. What are your thoughts about how this plays inside this courtroom with these two actors, celebrities, again, coming into court with completely different takes on what they experienced when they were married and they were a couple?
Right. This is what I thought immediately, and actually you kind of captured it when you first started talking about it. You started talking about how they changed their strategies to come out with their own expert to combat Dr. Curry's testimony. And what they did through this expert was they essentially laid out their case in a second opening argument through the expert. She came in and she laid out all the specific allegations that we expect to hear from Amber Heard, and she laid them out in detail as to what she was told by Amber through reports, injuries, however she documented it to the doctor. She came out and she laid that all out again. So what you heard was, you heard that opening argument played out again and laid out for the jury. And now they bring in Amber Heard to knock it down yet again. So it's primacy, recency. You keep knocking down the same topics over and over. You know, the jury remembers those things, and I think they actually strategically, I think they did a good job on that today with the doctor.
Yeah, I think they were watching our show because we were talking about this. Michael Sterling, let me. Now they're smart attorneys; they figured it out themselves. I'm only kidding, folks. Let me ask you, Michael. I'm going to play for you Dr. Dawn Hughes describing what I believe is absolute criminal behavior. That's what she's describing and alleging here. So I want you to put on your prosecutor hat. Listen to what she says, and then tell me what sort of evidence you would need to prove this case to a jury. Let's listen.
So there was a number of incidents of sexual violence reported in this relationship. Those are documented early on in Dr. Bonnie Jacobs' notes, where when Mr. Depp was drunk or high, he threw her on the bed, ripped off her nightgown, and tried to have sex with her. There were times when he forced her to give him oral sex when he was angry. These weren't in loving moments. These were angry moments, moments of dominance, moments of him trying to get control over her. There was a time when they were in Hicksville in the trailer, I don't want to say trailer park, but I guess it's trailer park. It is a trailer park, where he was accusing her of a woman hitting on Amber, and that was the problem. Amber got accused of women hitting on her, and it got accused of men hitting on her. So there were so many targets that came through in his obsessive jealousy. But when he, on that incident when Kelly Sue was accused of hitting on Miss Heard, and they went back into the trailer, Mr. Depp performed a cavity search and ostensibly was looking for drugs and felt it acceptable to rip off her nightgown and stick his fingers up her vagina to look for cocaine, thought that maybe she was hiding them there. And again, these incidents often happened in a drug-fueled rage.
I believe this is criminal behavior that's being described and alleged here. So how would you prove that, Michael Sterling, inside a courtroom? What sort of evidence would you need?
Well, it sounds like she's describing a couple of things. One is contemporaneous notes taken by a doctor who Amber Heard complained to. So obviously, if you had those contemporaneous notes, they could potentially be admissible, but obviously you open up a swath of information, because you don't get to let if it's a criminal case, you don't get to let just the part that she likes come in. Everything has to come in that the doctor said. So if you waive the privilege is waived, right? The right to your psychologist, the right to have that information kept privately and confidential. If you introduce it in a criminal case, all of it's waived, and then you would be able to get all of those notes. So we wouldn't know if there, for example, were contradictory notes or other things that were said that could potentially be beneficial to Johnny. But the question really, Vinnie, becomes, there's always a jury instruction that says if you believe even one witness, right? And sometimes that's all you have. I've prosecuted cases where all I had was just a witness testimony that I truly, truly believed. And I put that witness on the stand and, get a jury instruction that says, I don't have to have any DNA evidence. I don't have to have any physical evidence. I don't have to have any forensic science evidence. If you believe what this individual is saying, then you believe that the person should be convicted beyond a reasonable doubt. And if you believe that, then that's the entire prosecution. The question just becomes whether or not Amber Heard would have the credibility based on things that we've seen. For example, the makeup company coming out and saying, well, you said you covered your face with makeup from bruises, but we didn't even make that makeup line at the time you said you covered your makeup from bruises. Like that could be harmful to her credibility, right? And as a prosecutor, that's something I would look at.
Absolutely. Okay, when we come back, Think Tank staying with us. Michael Sterling, Ann Bremner, Rick King. We're going to have a preview of Amber Heard's testimony. Don't go anywhere.
slapped her. Now you see the rings that Mr. Depp has on hurts when he slaps. And she was stunned. She had no idea what to think. And she kind of laughed thinking, well, maybe that was a joke. What just happened? And he slapped her again. And then she just froze and just looked. And then he hit her again, and this time it knocked her right off the sofa onto the ground. And she remembers her face was in this dirty, filthy carpet. That's what she remembers and fixated on, the dirty carpet. And she's thinking, oh my God, I have to leave. I have to leave. But I love him.
That was from the opening statement of Amber Heard's attorney. And things that she's describing is what she believes the evidence will show in the case, which means this is what Amber Heard is going to be testifying about and telling this jury when she takes the stand, and we expect that could happen as early as tomorrow. She's supposed to be the second witness. This is not mild stuff. These are violent allegations we're talking about right there. Talking about slapping her so hard, knocked her off the couch onto the floor. These are the allegations. I want you to hear some more. Again, this is from the opening statement. The purpose of an opening statement is to tell the jury what you expect the evidence to be. And this evidence would have to come from the testimony of Amber Heard. Take a listen.
As you go through those 3 days of Australia, some pretty horrendous things happen to her. He rips off her nightgown. He has her jammed up against a bar. He has hurled bottles and bottles at her. He has dragged her across the floor on the broken bottles and the liquor. He has punched her. He has kicked her. He tells her he's going to kill her. He hates her. He's pounding at her, pounding her. And then he penetrates her with a liquor bottle. That's the Johnny Depp that you're going to hear about in this case.
And you're going to hear about it from Amber Heard when she takes the witness stand. Let's bring back in our think tank Michael Sterling, Ann Bremner, Rick King still with us. And this is violent behavior, slapped so hard that she's knocked off of the couch onto the floor. 3 days of violence down in Australia. And to me, this is a crucial part of the case. That's when his finger gets severed. But the allegation is that he is the one that is almost holding her captive in that home. And my understanding is that there's like house managers, security, all these other people around. Is she going to need someone else who was there to corroborate this, a hospital record or some pictures of something to corroborate what happened during this 3-day assault in Australia?
You know, I think so. I was thinking of that saying, nothing in nature can be sliced so thin that it doesn't have two sides. And of course, there is another side to this case, and it's her side. But the fact is, Johnny Depp had a lot of corroboration. He had all kinds of and evidence that supported what he had to say. I mean, if you look anywhere on social media, it's Team Johnny Depp. And so she's got no new PR people, but she's got a tough row to hoe. I just think that this evidence that she's going to put forward needs to have some kind of corroboration. And it sounds like there was some just now, talking about prior records where she disclosed, before she had a motive to fabricate, abuse at the hands of Johnny Depp. That's the kind of evidence she needs at a minimum.
Rick King, there was not a jury, but a judge over in the UK, probably wearing a wig, who was convinced of all of this, was convinced that Johnny Depp was an abuser and talked about many instances of it. And I'm sure the testimony will be similar, only here, you know, we'll get to see and hear it ourselves, not secondhand reporting of it, but we'll see and hear it ourselves. But the judge over there was convinced. Jurors, I know, sometimes can see things differently than a judge. A judge is one person, a jury is 7 who have to agree to something in this case. But what are your thoughts about, you know, these allegations? Violent slapping, a 3-day assault down in Australia.
So I tend to agree with Ann in the sense that, like, she's going to need something, because right now it's a credibility challenge, and it's going to be who you believe, because there's also the Johnny Depp side of what took place down there in Australia, and without any type of corroboration, some type of documentation, something other than her just saying it. There were already credibility problems with her. There's the during the depositions that she did, that there was now challenges to the credibility there. She's going to have problems without something to corroborate. And as you pointed out, there is a large, team Johnny Depp animus going on here locally, and I have to believe that in some way, the jury is still maybe enamored with Johnny Depp. So there has to be something more than her just getting up. And I agree with Michael in the sense that we have cases where it's just one person's word against the other person. And if you believe that person, then that person wins. And I think this case is very similar in that there's going to be a credibility challenge. And who do you believe? It comes down to that.
I think the one challenge that they have with what happened down in Australia is only one person ends up in the hospital with a severed finger and a cigarette burn on his face, and that was Johnny Depp. And there's a photograph of it that the jury saw. So I think that's a problem. Now, Rick, you mentioned Amber Heard and the deposition. So let's play that. I played it a couple of times for folks here on the show. I think it's important because it gives us an idea of how she testified previously, but we always have to remember, and I think it's pretty significant, this is 6 years ago. And she looks a little different. She's 6 years younger, and she's actually seems very young in this video. But again, here she is testifying back in 2016.
Did you ever tell any officers at your house on May 21, 2016, that Johnny Depp had ever done anything wrong to you, that night or before?
You're asking me if I've told them?
If you told them on May 21, yes.
Again, I said to them, I decline to give any statement at this time as per the advice of my counsel. They did make a comment to me about it seeming unsafe. That's why they needed to check the apartment. They made a gesture to my face. They said that I looked hurt. They also pulled me aside and said, look, just say a statement. We can make sure you're safe. Just say a statement or give us a statement and we'll go get the guy. And they said the exact same thing to Josh.
Is it your testimony that a police officer on May 21 told you that it appeared you looked hurt?
He or she gestured, I can't remember which one, to my face and said, we can tell you've been hurt or you don't look good or something to that effect, but I don't remember the exact words they used.
But something to that effect?
Yeah.
Did you ever punch Johnny Depp with a closed fist in the history of your relationship with Johnny?
Answer it however you feel you wish to.
Thank you. One time, Johnny was hitting me, and he was hitting me hard and repeatedly, and I was screaming. Security walks in, and they don't do anything about it. And he makes this motion when Jerry Judge yells boss, or Sean, I can't remember who it was. And all we had was a little bit of separation, and my sister runs down the stairs. We're on a landing in between two flights of stairs.
Miss Heard, I must interrupt you because I've asked you a yes or no question.
Withdraw your question then, because she's
answering.
answering.
Prior to today's date, have you ever hit Johnny Depp?
Answer it however you wish. You've already asked, and she's already answered, and you interrupted her.
Ms. Heard, have you ever hit Johnny Depp prior to today?
Objection, Vegas to time.
Everyone on this side of the room, please.
Objection 352. It's not relevant to this domestic violence proceeding.
Overruled.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Answer it however you want to, including the way you were just...
I'm asking for a yes or no answer.
You don't have to answer it the way she wants you to answer it.
He was about to push my sister down the stairs. She was attempting to break us up. I am protective over my baby sister. When he laid hands on her, I don't know what I did. but I know I jumped in between the actions that I saw could lead to a fatal injury to my sister. She was standing on the top of a flight of stairs, and she has never hurt anyone in her life, and she does not deserve to be pushed down the flight of stairs. And it looked like she was about to be. And I would have done what anybody who has a child or a sister would have done. I acted defensively in her life. I saw her standing on top of a flight of stairs and trying to interrupt a fight in between him and I. I don't know what part of my body I put in between me and him and her. But I would have done anything. I would have done anything to prevent her from being pushed down a flight of stairs.
Okay, let's break this down. There's two incidents she's talking about. Michael Sterling, I'll go to you on the May 21st incident, which is the one where the police respond, and she's describing what the police said. But we heard the police testimony. Police saw nothing that night. But she's testifying that, yeah, they said I was hurt, et cetera, but on the advice of counsel, I didn't want to say anything. What are your thoughts about how that will play in front of a jury if she gets up there and says, and tells this jury that officers said, yeah, they saw the marks on my face?
Yeah, I don't think it plays well, Vinny. I mean, a third-party, disinterested individual always has more credibility, right, than the person who has something to gain from what they're saying, right? So if it's me versus a police officer and then there's a medical report that says something different, maybe you win that, right? But if it's you versus, if it's Amber Heard versus Johnny Depp and a police officer is saying, we never said that, we didn't see anything, if we had seen something, we would have arrested her. We know police officers in this particular area have no trouble arresting celebrities. They've done it many, many times before. So it's not like it's something they're terrified of. They probably are more likely to take pride in making sure that they're being honest brokers and arresting a celebrity despite their status. So I think Amber Heard doesn't win that particular argument. If she's saying that police are telling them you look troubled and you look hurt and you look harmed, and she's also refusing to give them a statement, which, you know, seems like, you know, more harmful to her case, Vinny. So I think it becomes more difficult for her to win that particular argument.
Rick King, we're almost out of time for this segment. We only have a teeny bit of time, but she testified that Johnny Depp is repeatedly hitting her. Security walks in and does nothing. Your thoughts about that?
Again, this is another one of those things where you have the security guard who says something totally different. So I think that, and if he's repeatedly hitting her, it doesn't ring credible to me that they wouldn't do anything. But to Michael Sterling's point quickly, in 2016, in police departments across the nation, there was an ongoing effort in domestic violence where we would make arrests even if the victim didn't want to come forward. So if we saw evidence of an injury, we make the arrest and work it out later. That was what the police officers around the nation were doing at that time. So it really rings really not credible. When the officer says they didn't see anything, that rings credible to me. All right. When we come back, we got big news in another big case that we are following for you. Lori Vallow Daybell, competent to stand trial, back in court. And what's going on? The prosecution wants to send her to the death chamber. Details next.
I'll advise you, Mrs. Daybell, that the possible penalties associated with those charges are the conspiracy to commit first-degree murder is punishable by death or imprisonment for life. And if the death penalty is not sought, a mandatory life sentence with a minimum period of confinement being 10 years. That's the possible penalty on the conspiracy to commit first-degree murder charge. You understand that charge and the possible penalty there?
Things getting very serious for Doomsday mom Lori Vallow Daybell. Take a look at this from the state of Idaho. Do we have it? There it is. The state of Idaho, by and through the Fremont County Prosecutor's Office, hereby puts the court and the defendant on notice that the state will seek the death penalty against Lori Noreen Vallow, a.k.a. Lori Noreen Daybell, in the event of the defendant's conviction for any of the counts of first-degree murder and/or any of the counts of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder as charged in the indictment. Things are getting very serious very quickly. Let's bring back in the think tank Ann Bremner. The last time I remember covering a case where a mother accused of murdering their child was facing the death penalty, you and I were down in Orange County, Florida. Your thoughts about the state of Idaho seeking the death penalty in this case?
Well, Vinnie, I know you don't want to mention her name, that mother in Florida. And I won't mention it either, but we all know who she is. But I think this is the appropriate thing to do in this case if you support the death penalty. This is so serious. It's her own children. And this whole incompetency issue is now resolved. And I think it was, as we talked about before, I think it was based on her belief that he was a prophet and she was delusional following this man. But the fact is, that's been resolved. She's competent to stand trial. And you don't mess around in Idaho. It's a state right next to me here in Washington State. This is very serious, and she's got potential serious problems. One other thing I was thinking of, remember that picture, I think it was in the New York Times, of a woman being executed in the electric chair? A reporter pulled up his pant leg, and he had a camera on his shin and took that picture. It's so shocking to have a woman facing the death penalty in this country, and that picture was very famous for that reason and because it was surreptitiously taken. But the fact is, if you're going to charge a woman and seek the death penalty, that's a very serious matter. And she's got, I think, potential real worries ahead in Idaho and on these egregious facts.
Rick King, your reaction to this huge development in the case?
You know, Vinnie, I can't help but when I look at the pictures of the children, while I'm not a death penalty guy, I understand. You can't look at those kids and not feel sadness and just total shock and horror about, you know, what a parent could do to their child. As a father, it's heartbreaking, and it's what's going to happen in Idaho.
Michael Sterling, Tylee found in the pet cemetery in her husband's backyard, which I guess eventually became her backyard after his wife tragically died, and then they got married 10 days later, burned. JJ also buried in that backyard. This is a, you know, death penalty worst of the worst. I don't know if there's a bigger instance of someone breaking a trust, because children inherently love and trust their parents for everything. And when that trust is broken, to me, you are among the worst of the worst.
Yeah, Vinny, I mean, nothing can be truer, right? When you're raising your kids, there are things that, you know, I've got to 2-year-old, I've got a 4-year-old, I've got an 8-year-old. There are things where it might be painful for them, whether I'm putting something up their nose or giving them some medicine or whatever it is, but it would typically be painful for them, but they let me do it because I've earned their trust over the years and I've raised them, and they know that Dad's not gonna do something to harm me, right? He's trying to help me get better. If he's giving me some medicine that doesn't quite taste the way I want it to taste, I know that's my dad. He's just trying, even if they rebel a little bit, they know if I say come here, you know, they know that I'm doing something to try to make them better. So yeah, Vinnie, I agree. There's nothing worse than breaking the trust between a parent and child. And, you know, that case you talk about in Orange County, you know, remember that mom was found not guilty by a jury of her peers. And so I know you don't want to revisit that, but we never know what's going to happen. Jurors are unpredictable. We don't know what the facts are going to be. And I think, you know, Vinnie, as you always say, as I say, you know, trials are meant to, you know, develop the truth. So we will get some better understanding about who was in control of this relationship and what happened in this particular circumstance. At least I hope we will during the course of this trial.
Absolutely. And will it be during the course of the trial or trials? Because right now, folks, take a look. There are 2 separate trial dates for the Doomsday couple. Lori has a trial date of October 11th of this year. Chad, January of next year. Prosecutors want them put together, but right now Lori's asking for a speedy trial. So we'll see what the judge does with all of that. When we come back, we're going to go back to the Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard. Johnny Depp rested his case today. I asked you on social media, what was the most compelling evidence presented by Johnny Depp? Your verdict when we return.
In any case, the elevation and the escalation of these day-to-day arguments were simply unnecessary. It was not to help the relationship. It did not help the relationship. It wasn't meant to help the relationship. It was meant to feed her need for conflict. She has a need for conflict. She has a need for violence. It erupts out of nowhere, and what I learned, the only thing I learned to do with it is exactly what I did as a child. Retreat.
5 now.
The last time that it got crazy between us, I really did think I was going to lose my life, and I thought you would do it on accident. And I told you that. I said, oh my God, I thought the first time.
Amber, I lost a finger, man. Come on. I had a mineral can, a jar of mineral spirits thrown in my nose.
You can please tell people that it was a fair fight and see what the jury and judge think. Tell the world, Johnny. Tell them Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp, man, I'm a victim too of domestic violence, and
yes.
I know it's a fair fight. And see how many people believe or side with you.
Powerful recording played part of Johnny Depp's case. He rested today. Asked you on social media what was the most compelling evidence produced by Johnny Depp. We begin with our 13th juror comment today from Michelle, who says, yes, her own voice recording that no one would believe that he is being abused by her. And in her own words, I was hitting you. Also, her staged restraining order to allow her leverage in the divorce proceedings using his reputation in order to blackmail him. Bring back in the think tank, Rick King. Do you think the jury is going to interpret the restraining order against Amber Heard rather than for Amber Heard?
I mean, I can see how they would maybe think that she used that as a ploy to gain some leverage. That might, I don't know if it, for me, it didn't come off that way. But I can see how you could make that argument that that was her a calculated plan to move the direction she wanted to move in. It's plausible.
Colin tonight, the lay witnesses, truly independent, and those are my words, who had nothing to gain from telling their stories. LAPD, lobby attendant, they saw no injuries on Amber Heard. And Bremner, these truly independent witnesses can be very, very persuasive.
Yeah, and I agree with Colin. I mean, these are just people, they have no dog in the fight. They don't work for him. I especially like the lobby attendant that was vaping in his car and drove away during his deposition. But I agree with Colin.
Amazing moment. Valerie tonight.
Right.
Valerie says, the jury is still out for me because I think they are both equally guilty in some ways of domestic violence. My problem is how he's defamed by Amber Heard when she didn't even write the op-ed and certainly didn't mention Johnny Depp's name. Let me ask you, Michael Sterling, if the jury believes that they're equally guilty of domestic violence, does she win?
Yes, she does. I mean, the opinion, the op-ed she wrote was that she was a victim of domestic violence. So even if she committed it, if she was a victim of it, regardless of whether she committed it or not, then what she wrote was at least substantially true. So if it was just a volatile relationship where they hit each other, I think that it's likely that, you know, she wins on the defamation case. Yeah.
Tie goes to Amber Heard is the way read it. And I guess if you read the law, that's the way it should be, because it's a defamation case. Barbara tonight. Victims of domestic violence will hide when their perpetrator's in a volatile mood out of fear of violence being directed towards them. Amber Heard stood and filmed Johnny Depp while having a meltdown in the kitchen with no fear of him. That tells me she was not abused by him. Rick King, you only have like 15 seconds.
Yes. Many times in his testimony, he talked about hiding in the room, hiding in the kitchen, going into the bathroom, locking the door. It doesn't seem like she was in fear. She was chasing him down.
All right. What a great job. Michael Sterling, Ann Bremner, Rick King, thank you so much. We appreciate your time and your insight. We'll see you again really, really soon. Folks, unbelievable. What a day. Tomorrow, an even bigger day. We've got more to talk about. Don't go anywhere.